Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to track a home-cooked meal in your calorie counter. So many folks struggle with this. Yes, it could be a pain in the butt in the beginning, so I thought it'd be fun to try an experiment. My wife found a recipe for lemon chicken soup. I've never made it before, so I'm gonna make it for you here live, and it's not really live, this is tape, but you know what I mean. And before we get into anything, please, if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed, you like, comment, favorite, do anything else, so that I can keep bringing you awesome content, just like this. We're all sick, so you can probably hear it in my voice too, so stick around, let's get into it. So this recipe is from a website, Mediterranean dish. So it says prep time is about 5 minutes, probably going to take longer than that. Cook time is 25 minutes and it serves 6. So it's an entree, it's a soup. Here are some of the ingredients. Calls for extra virgin olive oil. We ran out of that, so I'm going to be using the spray olive oil. Calls for some chicken stock. It calls for orzo pasta. We don't have any of that, so we're going to use this protein penne pasta made by Barella. It's delicious. Salt, pepper, some turmeric, some lemon. We got a yellow onion here. We got cloves of garlic here. We got carrots. We got some green onion here. And then I pre-cooked some chicken breast that's been in the freezer, so it's thawing right now. The first step we're gonna do, just to get into all of this, is I'm going to do some chopping and some peeling. Don't think you need to watch any of that, but I will keep the mic going. So the thing that trips up a lot of people is that they're not really sure. They feel like they kind of has to guesstimate or that it takes a lot of time. But here's the cool thing. I use Macro First. That's the app I use. I used to use Chronometer, but Macro First is actually very easy to use. And all you have to do, you'll see it up on the screen, is you go into selection if you want to add a new recipe. You type in the name. So I have chicken orzo soup typed in. And now I'm literally going to add all the ingredients. So what I'll do is I will cut everything up first, dice it all up. So I'm going to dice up 2 cloves of garlic, which is what it calls for. And then I will weigh that out to see how much that is, and I will just pop it in. I have my scale. What's up, buddy? Okay, leave that there. That's fine. So I'm going to be weighing and measuring everything in grams before it's cooked. You want to measure things before they're cooked because when you cook them, in this case, because it's soup, they will absorb the water and they will weigh more. So we actually want to know how much it weighs before. That's a little trick. Usually for your grains, it's going to weigh more. Vegetables, it'll weigh more because it's just sucking up all that moisture. Protein, for most cases, when you cook it, it's going to weigh less. In this case, it might end up weighing more because it's going to be sitting in that stock. As we're chopping things, little fun fact, if you take your knuckles and you place it down like this and you hold on to the knife with your top hand here and your thumb across the bottom, I can look at the camera, I'm not going to cut my hand. That's a fun little trick that my mother-in-law taught me. She is a food stylist and a chef and an extraordinaire in the kitchen, and most of what I can do in the kitchen these days is a combination of what I've learned from my own mother, who had me start cooking when I was younger. In fact, I have a whole article, it's going to be linked below, 5 steps for making meal prep easier. Women in my life have really influenced how I cook and do everything. All right, so that's cut up. So I'm going to scoop up the garlic. I'm going to place it on here. So this is 10 grams of garlic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my app. I'm going to type garlic. I'm going to click 1 clove garlic. Doesn't really matter because I'm going to go grams. I'm going to enter 10 grams. I'm going to hit the little check mark and shows you the calories for the total recipe as of right now. So next up, we're going to do some yellow onion. I'm going to zero out my scale. What are you doing? What are you doing, bud? And I'm going to cut off the 2 ends. This is my least favorite part about prepping things, is that onions really burn my eyes. So we'll see if this yellow onion makes my eyes tear. But in our house, I do handle the cooking. It's something I enjoy doing. So yeah, if you don't enjoy cooking, it's not going to be the most fun thing always. But if you have little things like this where like you can double up on the serving size of it, maybe we double it, and then what you'll find is that you can just freeze some. So you can just pull it out, and again, you'll have the macros all broken down already, so you'll know the serving size. So again, you're going to hold on to the knife so your finger's not in the way, and you're just going to come down. And what I like to do is, some people like big chunks of onion, but really what I like it really diced up and fine. It's not as overpowering, it's not as intense. So we're going to come across, dice down, again, watching out for those fingers. And now I'm going to come across, keep my knuckles down so I'm not going to cut myself. I'm just going to cut down just like that. The cool thing about what we're doing here, so the base of a stock, really, and that's what we're talking about. There's tons of nutrients, vitamins, minerals that are all coming out, and they all sit in it. That's what makes things fragrant. So when you're making a sauce, when you're making a soup, the key ingredients here, as my eyes start to tear, garlic, onion, and carrot, and salt, maybe a little pepper. You let that simmer with maybe, like, honestly, like a teaspoon, not even a tablespoon of olive oil in a pan for a while, and you'll notice the house gets really fragrant, smells very good. That's what adds flavor to things. If you're not cooking with what they call aromatics, you're really missing out. That's why folks who are always complaining about how boring, like, they think meal prep can be, if you're trying to be in a weight loss phase, fat loss phase, they complain, like, what am I supposed to just eat boiled chicken or plain grilled chicken? No, you need to create seasoning. You need to use spices, because when you're adding those things to your dishes, what you're actually going to find is that they taste good. It adds a level of palatability to what you're eating, and it brings about more enjoyment, which is very important, because if you don't like what you're eating, like, at all, chances are you're not going to stick with it very long. It's also why I don't like meal plans, because if I was on a meal plan right now, or I had a client on a meal plan, and I was like, oh, let's make this fun soup, you're like, it doesn't fit with my meal plan. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do or what I'm doing. And that's not fun. Pause right now. We're going to throw away our garbage. I've got my son eating food at the table. I've got my dog waiting for dinner. I'm going to weigh the onion. Again, the onion before we cook it. So I'm going to scoop up the onion, zeroed out my scale already, place it on. It's really important that you zero out your scale before you put your stuff on top. You want an accurate reading, and when it says 0, that means 0. It means it's going to be accurate. Do that anytime you're adding to a recipe or putting in a bowl or taking something out. You want to make sure you zero out so you can see how much is being added or how much is being taken out, and that will give you a more accurate reading here. So according to my handy dandy scale, we're at 188 grams of onion, yellow onion. So now I'm going to go in here. I'm going to click yellow onion. Boop, it popped up. I'm just going to go to grams. I'm going to type 188, hit the check mark, and now I have my 2 ingredients in here. It shows me right now calories are 71, proteins 2, carbs are 16, fat is 0. Okay, and I'm going to peel my carrots, then we'll come back and we'll talk about dicing them up. Something interesting for you, what I'm going to do over here, I have a La Crusette. The recipe calls for a pan that is heavy duty, or a Dutch oven. I'm not sure. What we're going to do is we're going to put it on a low heat. What I have, again, as I said, is this olive oil spray. Now there's a funny thing about spray. You'll notice on the back here, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if you see it. Either way, maybe I'll put a screenshot. And it says there's about 568 servings per container. And it says it's exactly 0 calories. Now there is no way that what you're spraying is 0 calories. It's a technicality. Because it says about 1/3 of a second, 0.25 gram. How? That's literally, that's it. That's all it is. But we always use more than that. So the thing to keep in the back of your mind is, I'm going to log this as the olive oil spray. But the thing to keep in the back of your mind is, like, it's probably a little more calories than that. If I was going to be using regular olive oil, like in a bottle, I would measure that out. I'd probably do like a teaspoon to 1.5 teaspoons. Not that much. You actually don't need that much to get the pan a little bit greased. And if you find that vegetables and things of that nature are sticking, a lot of people will
put more oil, but actually what you can do is add a little bit of water. Adding water doesn't take away the taste, doesn't make it soggy. It unsticks everything from the pan, keeps things nice and good. So what we're gonna do, we got that going on, we got it on. We're gonna let it get hot, and then we're gonna add our oil. We're just gonna do a spray, which is about, I would say like 1 teaspoon. And we'll see how it goes.
My son is now watching Cars, so hopefully it's not super loud in the video. So it comes with the territory of being a parent. We're adding an ingredient to our chicken soup, orzo soup. What I have going on here is I went ahead and I peeled these carrots. Now, one of the things that's really cool when you are able to prep your food ahead of time or be able to enter these things into your tracker ahead of time is simply that you'll have it. As in, like, you're going to make things more than once. People who are most successful with weight loss tend to eat the same meals frequently. I know you might be shocked to hear that, but my most successful weight loss clients have like 10 to 15 things they rotate. That's it. They have their staples that go really well. They know what protein sources they're going to use. Like, when they have all of that information, it becomes that much easier. So if you think about it, if you're trying to make new recipes every single week, yeah, of course, that is not going to be the easiest thing to do while you're trying to feed your family, while you're trying to track how many calories you're having. Like, you want to make it easier for yourself. And for me, the easier thing is, like, we have the same meals every week. We always have some form of burger, whether that be a turkey burger or a ground beef. We always have some form of chicken, maybe. Maybe I make chicken nuggets for my son or for the whole family. Maybe we'll go plant-based, right? We love tofu, so like, and again, that's what it comes down to. It's seasoning and with actually cooking with taste, which a lot of people don't do, which is why tofu can taste pretty shitty. My son didn't hear that. But you have these things that you stick with, and they don't get boring. They really don't. And if one does get boring, then you take a break from it for a bit, right? So like, my family, we eat a lot of chicken, but that does get really boring. So sometimes we'll opt for something like a pork tenderloin, right? Which is delicious, about the same calorie-wise. Like, it's not a big deal there. It works in a fat loss phase, works in a gaining phase or a bulking phase, right? All foods really work within your diet, no matter what your goal is. The problem is when you don't track or aren't aware of portion sizes, right? And also, like, my son loves things like mac and cheese, and he loves things like chicken nuggets and burgers and fries. No one's telling you to cut those things out of your life. You simply just have to be aware of where it's coming from, how much it is, and preparing these things at home make it a little bit easier because you're in control of how much oil is being used. You're in control of what the variables are that you're usually out of your hands when you're prepping. So, carrot here, it's zeroed out. See how many grams of carrots we have. I think it's going to be a lot, simply because we cut up 2 giant ass carrots. But let's see what we can do. Now I'm using a baking sheet here, like a little bit of baking paper, parchment paper, I guess that's the proper term. So it's going to slide off a little bit, but again, I can see actually the scale staying the same the whole time. So what we have here, 265 grams of carrots. Delicious. So we go carrots raw, because there are these different options you'll see in Macros First, or if you're using MyFitnessPal, you'll see that like raw, cooked. You want to make sure you pick raw in this instance. It's not cooked, but that is a shortcut you can use. Like, my grilled chicken is cooked, so I'm going to put cooked in there so we can get an accurate reading. Someone went ahead and did that for us. It's verified in here. I trust it. 3 grams of protein in those carrots, 26 carbs, and 0 fat. Look at that. Fruits and vegetables, they are made up of carbohydrates. You get to understand about things like carrots is the way the body treats these things. It's not the end of the world, right? Carrots would be more starchy. Like, there's a ton of fiber in carrots, actually, and that helps with hunger and fullness there. So you have an easier time realizing you're full from carrots. Like, think about it. You can eat like a whole bag of baby carrots, still be in your calorie deficit and not go over. 2 large green onions, because what this is used often for, like green onion, it's at the end of the recipe usually, sometimes for garnish. Same thing with like parsley, things like that, which this recipe calls for, but we don't have any parsley. So that's sliced up. What would you like, buddy? You want a banana? You cannot have a banana on the couch. You can come sit over here and eat a banana, but we're not going to eat a banana on the couch because you get the banana all over the couch. And then mommy gets annoyed with daddy because I let you do that, so we're not going to do that. Now we're going to see how much green onion we have here. So again, plop that on. Boop, 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 boop. Like they said, this would be 5 minutes. It's taking longer than 5 minutes. 72 grams of green onion. So I just hit again, add green onion. Let's see, green onion, spring or scallions raw. Just gonna go green onions, small. We're gonna go to grams. We're gonna go to 72. Boop. Check mark there. Okay. Right, so what we got going on here is you can see all that deliciousness. Just check it out. You hear that sound. That lets you know that things are searing and getting underway. We're gonna stir this for about the next 5 minutes till things get soft. We want to make sure to do that. I didn't expect this to be so much a cooking lesson video, but that's what it's turning into, and I'm okay with it. So we're going to be going around here. What we're going to do now is we're going to add some salt. So I like to do a couple swirls. Am I tracking how much salt I'm adding to this? No, I'm not. I'm going to be honest with you. The amount of salt I'm using isn't going to be what makes or breaks someone usually, unless you have something like, cardiovascular disease. So what we have to be aware of here is that it's not going to make or break us. That's something good to have in the back of your mind. So I'm not going to put how much salt I added. It's a pinch. How do you measure a pinch? You can technically do it onto the scale, but we're not going to do that. Add the olive oil to that. So now we're going to go back over and check the menu or recipe. So what we have is we're going to move the green onion out of the way because that's going at the end. And what I'm going to bring over is the chicken I already cooked ahead of time. Chicken is thawed, it's defrosted. I'm going to move the green onion. I'm going to place it on here so we can use this. I'm going to go ahead and weigh out this cooked grilled chicken. Okay, so what I do, just open it up. It's cooked already. We got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's about 640 grams of grilled chicken. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to type in cooked baked chicken, I guess. Chicken breast oven baked. Boop. So what we're going to add here is we've got about 640 grams of it. So we're adding that per serving. That comes out to 23 grams of protein, 17 carbs, 7 grams of fat. So that's what you have to consider. Yes, it's a lot right now, but it's really not what it is. Okay, I live to serve. I'm going to actually toss this into the pot because it's already done. I'm going to add my water. I need 2 cups of water. So I'm just going to grab that. Does this need to be weighed and measured? No, it's water. Calm down, and if you're doing that, we're concerned for you. And number 2. Okay. But the tricky thing that it actually calls for next is 4 cups of chicken stock. Now this chicken stock is unsalted, it's Pacific Foods. It's the one that was on sale at the store, and I tried to get the one with the least amount of sodium in it just because that makes life a little easier. Now, it says that there are about 4 servings per container. It's 240 ml times 4. It calls for 4 cups. The recipe calls for 4 cups. So what we're going to do is we're going to place this on here. I'm going to switch this over to ml. Pretty cool. I can do that, zero it out, just so we can see how accurate this is. So it calls for 4 cups. So that's 240. So this cup holds about, like I could easily say, oh, that's 200 ml. That's a cup, right? This cup is 200. Calls for 240. Can we do it? Can we do it? Yes. All right. So there's 240 filled to the brim. You might not normally fill it to the brim, but that's the problem with just using cups. It's not going to be as accurate, right? So we're going to just skip ahead. I'm going to take this. I'm going to scan it. I'm just going to add it. Scan. Boom. Comes right up. Say we are going to use 240 times 4. You're going to watch me do some math on here. 240 times 4, 960. 960 ml. 960. Oop. So that, again, that adds some calories there. But again, split up amongst our servings. It's 27 grams of protein, 17 carbs, 7 grams of fat, 241 calories. So we're going to bring this up to a boil. There's not much else you have to see. The recipe does call for, it calls for orzo, but we don't have it. What we do have is this delicious, look, I'm not sponsored by them, but if they want to sponsor me, I have this awesome classic pasta, protein pasta. So what they do is they add some lentil flour, some pea protein, chickpea flour, barley flour, spelt. So we're getting some plant-based protein in with this. Nothing wrong with that. And there's also a decent amount of fiber too, which I'm a big fan of. There's 5 grams of fiber per serving. Each serving is about 56 grams uncooked. You need to read the back of this. Pasta, rice, any sort of grain, usually it's going to be uncooked. That's why you weigh it beforehand, because if you're weighing it after it's cooked, it's going to weigh more. So you can actually be eating less than the actual serving size, right? So 56 grams, usually it doubles in size, so it's about 112 grams when it's cooked. That's a good rule of thumb. It's usually doubled, but just keep that in the back of your mind. You could be, because 56 grams is going to be such a small serving when it's cooked. So what we're going to do here, because I don't know exactly how much is left in this box, but we're going to use the rest of this box. We're going to switch this back to grams because I had it set to ml for my liquid. Now we're back in grams. I'm just going to pour this in. So there is 193 grams of this pasta. So what we'll do is we come back over to our recipe. Do you see the trend here? Come back over. And the nice thing again about macros first, not an ad, just what I find most of my clients are really successful with and what I use. And we scan the barcode here. All right, so serving size is 56 grams. What we have, we're going to move down to grams, and we're just going to enter 193. Boop. We'll check that off. Now per serving, there's 33 grams of protein, 38 carbs, 8 grams fat, 351 calories. There's about 131 grams of carbs, 654 calories in this whole thing, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to let the chicken cook a little bit longer, and once it is done, you are then going to take the chicken out. It says to shred it, so we will do that, and then you throw the pasta in, you leave the chicken out while it's shredded up because it's going to be all cooked. But again, you don't need to watch that. Maybe it'd be interesting to see how much it weighs after I cook it, but that's what we're actually going to do at the very end. Frozen peas. So we're just going to zero things out, measure it out. And again, it says from frozen, so that's what we're doing. And that is way more than 100 grams. I'll take some out. It's 198. Big chunk out, 160. This is the annoying thing if you aren't too careful when you're measuring stuff sometimes. I mean, the other option is technically you scoop out of the bag and when you hit that negative number, but okay. So there's our 100 grams of peas, and that is going to go in as well. The way I add it, same way I do it. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to add ingredient. This is getting repetitive, isn't it? I'm going to add the ingredient. Again, all I do is scan. So we'll put it in there. 1 cup. We're going to go with grams here. In this case, 100 grams. There we go. All right. And now we're sitting up there. Bumped up the protein once again. Getting some extra fiber in there from the peas. All right. What you have to do is I'm going to switch this out. I'm going to tear apart some chicken. Got some juices coming out of it too. So we're going to get some paper towel. Don't at me about the environment. I understand. You know, they do also sell what they call bamboo paper towels. And one roll of that was like $15. You just tear it apart. Doesn't have to be overly complicated, anything like that. Tear it up, tear it up, tear it up. Tear it up, tear it up. And when you have it all teared up, it's going to go back into the pot. If you haven't already, which I mentioned at the beginning, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure you have notifications turned on. Give it a thumbs up if you like this sort of thing. I've never done a cooking video before. I mean, my clients know I cook. My family knows I cook, but I don't really put it out there anyway. I don't know if people find it interesting. But this is pretty helpful for you if you're trying to stick to your fat loss goals. And look, if you're busy, if you have no idea how to do any of this, and you quite frankly don't give a F-U-C-K. My son's over there. Uh-oh. What you could do is you can click the link below, but I have a meal planner for busy parents. But actually, it can apply to anyone, not just someone who has kids. But honestly, that could work really well. So I'll have the link down there at the bottom for you. You can click it, and then you will be able to download your copy. And also, you'll get on my email list. Never spam you, never do anything like that. I just send you my best. I hear you, bud. I just send you my best content. And then, you know, if I have coaching slots open for one-to-one coaching, I'll let you know too. What's up?
Oh, yeah. Look at all that shredded chicken. Look at all that shredded chicken. Oh, yeah. Gonna be honest. It's not the best it could be because it's a little overcooked, but I'm going to throw it back in the soup, which should soften it up too. All right, so soup's looking pretty good. I think that looks good. What we're going to do now is we're going to throw that green onion on, and then the most important part to this lemon orzo soup is the lemon. So we can't really forget that. So what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze this in. Now, the thing that you can do here is technically you could do a zest. Ain't nobody got time for that. So what I'm going to do is actually just throw the whole lemon in and let it cook for a little bit longer, and then I'll take that part out. Because I didn't weigh my lemon. Just kidding. Because no one wants to chew on lemon. Unless you're pregnant. When my wife was pregnant with our son, she liked eating lemons. So if that's you, right on. Okay, so we've reached the final phase here, which is the most important part. We know how much technically everything is. It's all cooked. We have it all entered in here, and we can see that per serving, it's 34 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs, 8 grams of fat, 362 calories. Not bad macros by any means. Really hearty. But what we also have is the total recipe, which is 206 grams of protein, 242 carbs, 49 grams of fat, and 2,174 calories. Now, we already know that the recipe technically made for 6 servings. What we need to figure out is how many grams per serving that is. What you could technically do is add up all the numbers and divide it, but because things are cooked, those numbers aren't going to be accurate any longer. So what we do in this case is remove the top, which is now, of course, dripping water everywhere. I'm going to put this over here. And I have my fancy ladle. And what we're going to do is I've zeroed out the scale here, and we're just going to fill up this container and see how much it weighs. And that will give us an idea. And Macros First does the work for us and figures out how many grams per serving. That way you can portion it out however you want. Makes life easier. Now, there are other ways you can go about this. MyFitnessPal, I think, is way more clunky. Chronometer is pretty good about this, but I found Macros First is the easiest way to do it. They've just gone one above to make that easy. And again, you can use the free option. I use the platinum option simply because all my clients use it. I use it. Everything is going to weigh more right now because it's all cooked, right? And there's liquid, which is something a lot of people don't take into account when they're trying to do any of this, yeah? Because right now, we got a little bit left here, but right now, we're at 1,000
956 grams, which really doesn't tell me much of anything, right? So we scoop it, get it all in here. Again, you want to be safe when you do this. Don't burn yourself, hurt yourself. Pour it all in. Get all the goods in there. Go over to your sink, stick this in the sink. We'll clean it up after. So right now, the total for everything we cooked is 2,403 grams, right? So I'm going to enter 2,404 grams because it updated itself. We're in grams. We're going to hit the check mark. And it shows that one serving size would be in grams, 400.67 grams would be a single serving size. So then what you would do is you would see how much protein is in that. That gives you 34 grams of protein, 40 carbohydrates, only 8 grams of fat, and 362 calories. This is a very hearty soup. It would be something great if you were in a cut, something great if you just enjoy soup. Very easy. And then all you have to do now is when I go into dinner, because this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on dinner. I'm going to click on recipes. I'm going to click on my chicken orzo soup. I'm going to click the check mark and assume it is check mark. It's there for me. So right now that puts me... No more snacks, buddy. What you can have is dinner. Okay? So that I'm going to add a little bit. Maybe I'll have a little bit more than that, but that gives me an idea here. And yeah, so that's where we are right now.
So I have my soup here, my serving. You can see the macros up for what it is. I'm going to eat this. I don't like eating on camera. And then we will talk about things. There's no need to watch someone chew. It's gross.
The soup was absolutely delicious. There is more than enough. We can freeze some. My wife can enjoy it. My son can pretend to try it. Toddlers don't really eat delicious things. They eat the same things over and over again. But here's the thing. When we look at all of this, it's actually easier than we think it is. It's very overwhelming if we look at, well, what are the steps that are going to be involved with tracking everything as accurately as possible? I'm going to take some pressure off you and just let you know everything is an estimate. Like, even when you read the back of a package and it says how many calories are in something, or they tell you that the size is like 3/4 of a cup or 60 grams, whatever it might be, you got to go with the grams because that's going to be most accurate. But even still, that number is a guesstimate. Like, it's not 100%. That's why trying to hit one specific calorie number is silly too. You want to give yourself a range of at least plus or minus 100 to 150. That gives you wiggle room. That makes room for error. That makes it okay if things don't go according to plan. The second thing you have to understand is that you can plan ahead to make it easier to do the prep that we did in this video. One thing you can do, and I even made a comment on it, was that it said 5 minutes to prep all the vegetables. That took way longer than 5 minutes. What you can do at the beginning of the week after your food shop, if you know you're going to want to make a soup, or you know you just want to make it easier for you to have vegetables or fruit available to you, cut them up ahead of time. Like, honestly, cut up your vegetables ahead of time. You can put them in Tupperware, put them in a Ziploc bag, whatever it is. And then when you go to make a salad, go to have a side, go to make a soup, you have those things cut up. So cutting up things like your peppers, your onions, your garlic, having all those things, then putting them in a airtight container will keep them. If you cut things like cucumbers and things of that nature, it can get a little bit funny, but if you put a little bit of water in the bottom of the Tupperware, that'll keep them fresh and won't let them get that weirdness, if you will. Plan ahead, things get easier. Now, I told you I had 2 resources at the bottom you can click. If you look at making big soups and things like this, what I recommend doing is double it. Like, double the recipe. You saw how it's easy to input it into Macros First or whatever tracker you're using. If you double the recipe, then you will be able to freeze a bunch. And when you're in a pinch or in a bind, you could just go in the fridge, grab out a serving size, and have it. I do the same thing when I batch cook a bunch of chicken. Like you saw, I pulled it out of the freezer to use in this soup, or I cook a bunch of steak, or I make extra burgers. The whole idea is to make life easier, because if you have kids, if you have other commitments, Cooking takes up a lot of time, but you can make it easier for yourself by spending one big chunk of time and having it all laid out for the week. So before you go and say you can't do something, just remember you can. You're fully capable of doing hard things. The first time you do anything, it's really going to be a challenge. So here's a challenge I hold for you. For the next 30 days, I want you to track your calories. Track. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're not going to get 100%. We're not after perfect, right? We're not. Really, the thing that's hard to do for a lot of individuals, track those 3 macronutrients, get them as tight as possible, 5 plus or minus grams of whether it be protein, whether it be carbs, whether it be fat. And if we are outside of that range, well, then things aren't perfect, right? You're not a physique competitor. And if you are and you're watching this video, more power to you. But most folks that I work with, in fact, every person I work with is not a physique competitor. They're just like you. They're just like anyone else. They just want to be able to feel comfortable in their body. They want to be able to lose weight. They want to be able not to have it be all consuming. That's why you can make a ton of progress with tracking your calories plus or minus 100, your protein goal, and a fiber goal. You can get the same results. It might take you a little bit longer. That's okay though, because we don't want fast results, because fast results usually don't stick around very long. So I hope you found this helpful. And if you have any other questions about anything, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, you're following, leave a comment below. I answer them. I always check them out. And let me know, what would you like to see me film next? What sort of content? Do you want more cooking segments like this? Do you need some help with certain exercises? Just comment, let me know. I will always answer. And without further ado, I just want to let you know you're one day away from getting back on track, and you're only one day away from realizing how fucking amazing you are.